Hey, and welcome. If you're watching, we're excited that you're here with us today. This is Built Different. At Banyan Labs, we don't just build software, we build futures. And this is built different inside the products, the problems, and the people changing what's possible. And today I have Andrew Thomas. Andrew, thanks for being with us today, man. Thanks for joining the podcast.
You're welcome, dude.
So, here as we get started, just talk to us a little bit about who you are and what you do at Banyan, kind of your role there.
Well, my name's Andrew. I've been in software development now for a little over 2 decades. I think 22 years now.
Wow.
Inside Banyan, I kind of go all over the place, from leading projects to teams to mentoring people or devs as they're just learning the field or coming inside of it, and helping build infrastructure inside of Banyan.
If you're watching, I've had the opportunity to work with Andrew, and the way that he thinks about software development and software architecture is just really impressive. And today we're going to talk about a product that you have built. You actually built before you reached Banyan, something you built from the ground up that you worked on and off for about a decade. Talk to us about Compass.
So, Compass, you want to know like what inspired me on it? Is that what
Yeah.
you're asking? Okay. So it started as what I called my step forward. Now it's been rebranded as Compass, and it was explicitly designed for organizations that work with people at critical transition points. So transition homes, with use prevention centers, reentry programs, shelters, and the like. So I kept seeing like a consistent, frustrating pattern, right? These organizations were doing great, like heroic work, but their tools were essentially spreadsheets plus email, plus whatever community platform they could bend into shape. And the core problem I wanted to solve was the gap between support and follow through, which is lacking. Right. So staff might conduct an amazing intake and set powerful goals with someone, only for that momentum to scatter, right? A paper file in one place, a resume draft in another, and a housing note in a third. So I wanted
Yeah.
a system where everything lived together in a way that, one, honored the person's story, two, made it easier for staff to coordinate, and three, gave the client a clear, focused sense of next steps so they wouldn't feel lost the moment they left the building or program or whatever point of the life that they were in.
Yeah, yeah. So Compass, right, is our transitional housing software. And man, I have been inside and out of that product, testing it and then sharing it with potential clients. And it's just amazing. You mentioned in our initial visit the other day that you'd been working on it for about 10 years on and off. Can you walk us through the journey from the initial concept to where it is today?
Sure. So over the last 10 years or so, I kind of treated it like a long running lab project that slowly grew up. I guess that's the best way to put it. I don't know. So in the beginning, it was mostly an idea and a ton of trial and error,
Yeah.
right? Sketching inside of notebooks, building rough versions, and throwing way more of them away than I kept, right? Just to figure out what kind of experience actually helped people think about their careers and next steps, right? But every time I came back to it, I understood a bit more about what it needed to do well. Three key things inside of it, like safety and trust, right? Let people sign in safely and protect their information. You need a clarity over noise. So you need to provide a single calm home base instead of a busy, overwhelming dashboard that you see amongst many other programs out there. And connection. Eventually support things like chat and guided conversations, which is inside of it now. So the version that I have today is the first one that really feels solid and trustworthy, right? Something I'm confident putting in front of any organization out there, any organization or community, really. And it's not just a personal side project at this point that I would just tinker with. It's an enterprise grade platform.
Yeah, yeah. So talking about all of those things, man, and you're a senior developer at Banyan, so there's a lot of wisdom and experience that come with what you've done. And just mentioned, all of the trial and error. As a senior developer, what was the most technical or the most challenging technical problem that you encountered when you were building My Step Forward, which has come to be Compass?
The chat. So the hardest issue I had by far was chat functionality that lived behind the authenticated hub. So I wanted the chat to feel like text messaging or Facebook group message or chat messaging, whatever it's called, right? It needed to feel instantaneous. So I combined optimistic UI updates with real-time updates from the back end. So in practice, that meant when you send a message, it appears immediately in the local state, like almost simultaneously.
Yeah.
Excuse me. A Firestore listener would stream the official version of that message and the other users' messages into the same UI. Well, it wasn't really working like that. So I kept dealing with a race condition. So the race condition showed up when network latency or ordering got weird. Sometimes the optimistic message and the backend message would both render, causing duplicates. Other times, rapid edits or deletes would get clobbered by a slightly older snapshot. So debugging it was fun. That meant, you know, tearing apart when local state should be authoritative versus a server, designing messages to be independent using stable IDs and server timestamps, or implementing a normalization layer so each message stream event merged into a canonical record. That experience influenced the rest of the app though. So even like in the login flow, you can see that same mindset: clear error states, explicit redirects, guarding against edge cases like missing user profiles to avoid inconsistencies and so on and so forth. But that was my biggest challenge inside of it, to get that to work flawlessly.
When you were building it, man, what features were you intentional about embedding into Compass? Maybe because you felt like other platforms were missing those features or other community management platforms didn't have those. And you felt like if you were going to build something, it needed to have these non negotiable features.
I mean, everything that you see inside of it right now, the list is endless. I thought what the most important to me, I think the most important thing is staying connected, right? Recidivism's a big thing,
Yeah.
right? And unfortunately, that number is really, really high in the industry, like nationwide.
Yeah.
Some astronomical number. My mindset is the more somebody can stay connected into a positive environment, the least likely they are to fall back on old ways, right? So something that I felt was missing inside of a lot of other programs out there is a way to stay reconnected, right? So my goal inside of it was always to have like a alumni network platform or a graduate platform inside of there, where people who have done, let's say it was a transition home, right? Let's say they went through a transition home, they did everything that they were required to do. In the eyes of the law, they can go ahead and move on with their life and they don't have to look back, correct? But that's where recidivism plays a factor in there. What's the recidivism rate in America right now? 90 some odd percent, or whatever it is. It's ridiculously high. So if you have a way to keep people engaged,
Yeah.
mentor people that are just now coming into this transition home or rehab or what have you, and be a positive influence on somebody who's just now starting out or struggling or is living at rock bottom, not only is that going to be good for the person, the mentee, but it's also going to be good for the graduate of that program, right? It's going to give them a sense of purpose, drive, dedication, right? A fulfilling nature, I guess, and keep them in a positive headspace and give back. To me, human nature to give back feels really good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'd much rather do that than I would do something bad to make me want to go deal with incarceration or the law in any negative manner. So I felt like that's something that's missing in other platforms. Tight integration between identity guidance and execution is something that was missing. So most community tools stop at people, content, messaging, right? Compass is built around identity and progression, right? So that's important, right? You want to drive the entire experience in a positive manner, right? Permissions, program stage, tools, everything that's inside of there right now. I wanted to have like a real hub
Yeah.
experience instead of like loose collection of features,
Right.
right? Traditional platforms bolt on resumes, events, and chats as separate modules. Compass is opinionated, if you will, right? Given each user a single home base, a hub that surfaces only the next relevant actions and resources rather than a generic activity feed. That makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Yeah.
And structured longitudinal support. So other systems excel at short campaigns,
Yeah.
right? And that's a reality. They do. Compass is designed for journeys spanning months or years. So data points like location, resume history, program participation are first class concepts rather than add-ons.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I want to build on that because we're talking about features and architecture, right? And when we visited, you said that you designed Compass from day one to be
Mhm.
scalable, to be robust, to be highly customizable. And I think you even said not a cookie cutter solution, right? Can you
I did.
explain the architectural philosophy that you used and why that mattered when you were building?
Sure. So I assume from the start that organizations would have different workflows, right? And I didn't want to fork the product for every client. So separation of core and config. So author out in the data models are core and stable, right? Organizations can then configure their own tracks and hub layouts on top of these primitives without touching the source code. Data driven behavior, logic isn't hard coded. So like if students show X or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Instead, Compass reads flags from the database and derives a UI. Defensive boundaries, right? The app fails closed. Like a login attempt checks if it's an account's disabled, for example, and the existence of a profile before granting access. So, if anything is off, it signs the user out and shows the specific error. Keeping flow predictable and secure, stuff like that. That conversation would be. We could talk for 3 hours on it, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to
So
bore you with all the tech jargon.
no, you're good. You're good because right, one of the audiences for our time together is junior developers and senior developers, right? People who are in the space, and we want to spend some time talking about what we've created and why we created it in the way that we did. And so you've hit on this a little bit, but I want to revisit it. How does Compass avoid being just another generic platform? And instead, like you mentioned, how is it custom tailored to each organization or institution's needs?
I guess the best way to put that is each organization defines its own roles and milestones. The platform interprets this configuration to render a unique experience using the same underlying engine. It's a context aware UI. The hub is driven by who you are and what you are trying to do. Because the app is organized around a single authenticated hub route, the experience is curated the moment you enter. Deep data integration. So resume fields and historical interactions feed into what is surfaced. When a user logs in, it feels like an organization built the tool specifically for them.
Yeah.
So I guess the simplest way to put it would be Compass isn't a white labeled community shell. It's a core engine for identity and progression where organizations can pour in their own logic and content and get a bespoke feel without sacrificing stability or scalability.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I really love about it is the sign in, sign out feature, right? That's geo-fenced. Just talk to us about why you included that feature because that's not something that I see in a lot of similar products.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with, I'll go with like recovery programs and
Yeah.
transition halfway homes. If you're familiar with how like 99% of them work, they work on basically an honor system and an archaic paper pen model, right? All of those are easy to fabricate,
Yeah.
right? So at the end of the day, these programs are designed to have you change your way of thinking, change your behavior, change your life, get you if you're in the legal system, right? If you're justice impacted, those programs are designed to, if you work the program, to reacclimate you into society in a positive manner, right? So you don't go backwards. So the sign in, sign out, that's geotagged. So you can't cheat it. If you're not within a preset distance from the coordinates of that house or that program that you're in, it fails on a sign out or a sign in. Because at the end of the day, if you're not going to, I don't know the best way to put it, it holds you accountable.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And accountability is key. You just have to do the right thing, I guess, right? So anybody can cheat on a paper and pen, but you cannot cheat the technology when you're trying to sign out and you're not within the predefined geolocation or the geofence, sorry. It just won't let you do it. And then if you try to do it, your management gets flagged, letting you know that you tried to cheat the system and then whatever they want to do from there. Right.
Right.
But that was important because it forces you to follow rules and protocols, just like you have to in every day in life. So
Sure.
I felt like something like that was important to have inside the program.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that in our visits with transitional homes and like institutions, that's one of the things that they've really been appreciative of is, the opportunity for people to take responsibility for their own accountability, right? And to address problems or challenges before they become problems and be proactive rather than reactive. Man, I want to talk about something that you mentioned in our initial call, and it's this three-phase rollout that you kind of envisioned when you were creating Compass. Can you just very briefly walk us through that three-phase rollout?
So originally I built it out and I planned it out in, like you said, a phased approach, right? Now, as I started building it, I started kind of blending in steps that were inside of phase three and put them in phase one, that were in phase two, put them in, and so on and so forth. I kind of like, you know, changed it as I went, which is part of it. But so the phase one is what I called the core accountability suite. So it was going to be my MVP, if you will, right? It was gonna be to launch like a powerful, polished, marketable MVP that solves the most immediate accountability and communication problems inside of transitional homes. So it focused on rebuilding existing functionality and a lot of other programs that are out there, rebuilding it in like a professional and scalable foundation, if you will. Taking it from a tech stack that I had in the past, refactoring it over into what you see today, which is Svelte and Firebase. But inside of it, I wanted to have a resident hub, a manager hub, and an admin hub, right?
Yeah.
Which is what it has right now. So core user management inside of there, like secure user authorization. Originally, I was going to have a multi-step manager approval process, which I since talked myself out of. It doesn't have that anymore. I wanted to have the sign in, sign out, and accountability, which is in there. So that was geotag sign in and sign out log. Um, a manager dashboard that the logs could be exported for um, the housing requirements and maybe like uh, uh, Department of Correction requirements if they require that. Location check-in. So when people sign out to go somewhere, if an admin or a manager requests their location through the app, the end user or the resident gets notified through a push notification, and they have to click accept, and it sends their actual location to make sure they're where they're supposed to be. Again, it goes towards accountability. I wanted to have goals and achievements in there, a place where residents can set goals and work towards them. Plus, a platform that they could upload documents like certificates or diplomas or whatever they might have
Yeah.
gained since they've been in these programs so they can keep track of it. A savings ledger, right? A place where they can keep track of how much they're saving because, a lot of these people don't have the ability to get traditional bank accounts, right? For whatever reason in their past, or maybe it's restrictions of the program that they're inside of. Now, in a lot of these programs, all they give you is a paper receipt when you turn in your paycheck at the end of each week. And, receipts are just that,
Yeah.
something to throw away or get lost. So a place to store that information that you can reference it at any time. So you could set your deposits, set your withdrawals, and keep track of your real-time savings. I wanted to have a place for journaling inside of there. I feel like that's important. Private journaling, I should say, where no one else can access it. Put that inside of there. Messaging, so where you can do everything all inclusive inside of the app. If you have a question you want to message your management or admin, you can directly through the app. Inspirational messages. So they changed it every day. It's a different one. And I think it's set up for 4,000 or 5,000 different messages right now that it cycles through. So the odds of you seeing the same one in any given year is like slim to none. Scheduling, a place where they can keep track of their schedule for whatever program they're inside of. That was phase one. So phase two was going to be like the complete operations platform. It was going to be to expand on phase one and turn it into like an all-in-one platform that manages like nearly every logistical and operational aspect of the organization. So to me, that would make it indispensable for day-to-day work. Right.
Yeah.
So that was going to be an admin hub where inside of there, you're going to have a work order system, which was going to be like a complete module for submitting, tracking, and managing property maintenance requests, putting a chore wheel inside of there. A lot of these programs will make residents do chores. So a system for managers to create and assign daily or weekly chores to residents. Wanted to have inventory and supply management, which is a tool for tracking household supplies and generating shopping lists. I wanted to put a pass down log in there for managers to pass to other managers for basically a dedicated shift log for manager to manager communication. Vehicle and visitor management, a system for logging resident vehicles and pre-approving visitors for the residents. For the like residents, I wanted to have like a points and reward system, like a gamification feature for rewarding positive behavior.
That's
Yeah. Medication reminders. So like a private module for residents to track medications with adherence logs to go along with that for managers or admin. A disciplinary action log. So it would be like a formal system for logging rule violations and tracking corrective action. And it would be completely open. So the residents will be aware of what's going on. Also, it's not done in the background, right?
right.
Community engagement. So community polls and anonymous surveys. So tools for managers and admin to easily gather feedback from the residents about, hey, this is going great. This is going bad. We'd like to see this. What do you think about this? So that was going to be phase two. Phase three was like the strategic growth and funding platform. So you take phase two and phase one, combine them all in, and add phase three, which is to elevate the application to an enterprise grade strategic asset. right? That not only runs the organization, but also drives its long-term financial health, compliance, and programmatic success. So I wanted to put like a billing and subscription system in there, right? With Stripe integration. So it could be marketed out to other organizations to use. The Stripe integration was going to be for residents if they're required to pay monthly fees inside that program. It could all be handled
Yeah.
natively through the app. You don't have to deal with cash or whatever. I wanted to have staff scheduling and time tracking. So a module for creating staff schedules and managing timesheets. These next ones are really important, actually. Strategic and compliance tools. So recidivism and outcome tracking. I want to build a powerful system for tracking long-term resident success through an offboarding process. And that's like what we were talking about before. What happens when people leave the program? Almost all these programs out there right now have no idea because they don't
Right.
keep up with them. A lot of them end up back in bad ways. So I wanted to build an offboarding platform, a way to keep them reconnected or keep them connected with people inside the program in a positive manner. I want a grant application process inside of there or workspace really. So a feature inside that is good for discovering grants and managing the entire grant application process. So it'll just do everything for you. When you go to these programs, there's a ton of paperwork you have to sign, right? And you're never going to remember every word that's on those papers that you sign. And most of the time, you don't even get copies of them,
Right.
right? You just sign it and give it to them, and that's it. Well, in Compass, that's not the case. The programs actually upload all their onboarding paperwork, contracts, what have you, and you sign them digitally in the program, and you can reference that 24/7, 365 forever with your signature and the program signature on it. So you now have a real copy of it and they have a real copy of it that you can reference at any time. So if you have any questions on the rules or about anything that you signed, it's all saved to your profile inside of Compass. A case file summary like export feature, which is inside of there now. So it's a one-click tool to generate a comprehensive PDF report for residents. So basically what that is, it takes the entire residence profile and exports it, right? And
Yeah.
puts it
Yeah.
into one little file or you can print it off if admin needs to go to court or something for a resident inside of there. And it'll list all their achievements and goals, stuff that they've accomplished, what the, how much money they've saved since they've been in there, if they've been in trouble, stuff like that. Anything inside the program is all inside of there. A learning management system. So kind of like Khan Academy, but better platform basically for creating and assigning life skill courses to residents, right? Everything from money management to credit management to trade schools to online college courses, whatever, right? You name it, I want it in there, right? Because at the end of the day, to better yourself, you need every available resource out there.
Right.
So,
For
and
sure.
what's
For sure.
a better way to do that than through education, right?
Yep.
Job application. So let's be like really honest. If you have a record on you, for example, you have a stigma on you by, in society's eyes. You
Yeah.
might have done your time, you might have gotten out, doesn't matter. You still have that record and that stigma on you.
Yeah.
So some kind of platform inside of there for second chance employment is like beyond important to me, right? Where employers that legitimately offer second chance careers, not just jobs at like McDonald's or something, but something that's actually rewarding and fulfilling and sets you up for future financial success is important to have inside of there.
Yeah.
So, but not only that, you need to have a way to track your applications and your progress throughout it, right? And it looks like that's something that's in the works right now anyway. Appointments and transportation. So, a system for coordinating all resident appointments and transportation logistics, that's currently inside of there. So, if residents need to set up an appointment and they need like a ride from the program, it's all handled natively in the app. And the flip side of it is if admin or managers need to set up an appointment for a resident, they can do it and the resident will get notified that, hey, you have an appointment this day at this time to go to this place and bring these documents with you. Right.
Yeah.
And then the last part, or not the last part, one of the last parts of the phase 3 was like a community extension, if you will. So like case manager, probation officer portal,
Yeah.
read only portal for authorized third parties to be able to log in and see, hey, how's my person doing that's under my supervision? Are they doing good? Are they doing bad? Are they struggling? Are they excelling? Whatever. A place where they can log in and see real time what you're doing, not be able to make changes inside of it, just have a read only access. Alumni network and aftercare portal. So a space for program graduates to stay connected. I've already spoke on that quite a bit. And then the last thing that I had planned to put in there was actually the first thing that I put in there, which was an emergency alert panic button. So a lot of these people, let's say they're coming out of incarceration, for example, and let's say they had mental health problems or drug problems or whatever kind of struggles they had in the past. Well, these guys and girls will go through moments of weakness in their recovery. That's just part of it, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they just need help and don't know how to ask for it. So inside the program, there's a big red panic button on like every page inside of there, right?
Yeah.
All they have to do is hit that alert button and it pulls their real-time location and sends it to everybody inside the program with either an admin or a manager role. And
Yeah.
everybody gets those alerts and with a map of their actual location down to like a couple feet. And at that point, the manager or the admin is to call that resident, talk to them until they can actually get to wherever they're at to make sure that they
Sure.
don't do anything that they would regret in the future. That's my that was my 3-phase rollout plan inside of it. Now there's, as you know, quite a few things from I kind of cherry pick things, and what you see inside of it now is what's already there, and it's stuff from all 3 phases.
Yeah, yeah. So, man, when you architected this, right, you thought of so many things, right? It's very thorough, it's very robust. So, I'm kind of scared to ask because it already contains so much. You know, we as developers, we're constantly developing, we're constantly improving. So, you've told us all the things that are already there. What are some of the features that are on the roadmap that you're still wanting to implement?
I mean, a lot of that stuff that I was just talking about is super important to get inside of it, right?
Yeah,
The alumni network, graduate portals, the offboarding process, that's incredibly important. We already got too many people in this country incarcerated as it is. And if we can, if this just solves 1% of that, like I'm
yeah,
thrilled, right? That's not a big enough number, but it's a huge step, right? I think that's really important. I want to see that inside of there. The second chance employment, I want to see inside of there. The grant, the grant application, I want to see inside of there. And to have it at the point in the future where you have like your own personal digital assistant inside of there, right? That's super important. And, you know, all these are things that are on the roadmap,
yeah,
right? Don't know how long it's going to be until it's all done. Hopefully it's really, really soon. All these are on the roadmap, and all them put inside of what Compass currently is right now is going to make it a dominant factor in this. Like
yeah.
there's nothing else out there that would come close to it.
Man, so I'm thinking about your journey and all of the things that are inside Compass. I've played around in it a lot, tested it a lot. If you could go back 10 years and start Compass or My Step Forward from scratch with your current knowledge and your current tech stack, what would you have done differently?
Been in the stack that I'm in today. So I learned a lot. So I'll just talk about that. So I went through, including the iteration that's in right now, 3 tech stacks, right?
Okay.
So over the life of Compass, I've gone through a few very different technology choices before
Yeah.
landing where it is today. So the first one was actually C++, worst decision in the world. So, and I only started there because that's what I knew best at the time. And it
Yeah.
was powerful, but it was a terrible fit for this kind of product, right? It was slow to build anything visual, and small changes took a ton of work. I mean, it was kind of like trying to build a living room, like a tiny living room using only industrial machinery. Like, I guess like that just doesn't work. So from there, trashed it and moved on to Ruby, right?
Hmm.
So I was hoping for something friendlier and faster. And it was nicer in some ways, but I never really clicked with it. The structure didn't match how I think. Like it felt a bit magical, I guess, in ways that made debugging confusing. And I
Okay.
still felt like I was wrestling with the tools instead of focusing on the mission. So after those phases, I kind of hit pause and spent the better part of a year really doing deeper
Hmm.
research. And I wanted a setup that would let me move fast, but stay simple and clear over time. And that eventually led me to Civility. So, and Civility works the way my brain works, right? So when I sit down to build a screen in Compass, I'm thinking in very concrete terms. Like, for
Yeah.
example, when someone types their email address here, this thing should update, right? And in a lot of other tools, you end up jumping between many different files and layers just to make that happen. Well, with
Hmm.
Civility, the structure, the visuals, and the logic all live together in one place, staying surprisingly readable even as it grows. And why it fits inside Compass, a low overhead. excuse me, some frameworks will make you write a lot of glue code before you can do anything useful. Subtlety the opposite. So small pieces of code do a ton of work, and that behavior is obvious from what you see on the page. Adaptability. So Compass evolves as I learn from research and conversations in the field. So it makes iteration feel light. I can adjust the screen or add a new state by touching a small contained piece of code instead of ripping up a whole structure.
Yeah, yeah.
Seamless integration. It plays very nicely with the rest of my stack, like Firebase. The mental model is simple. Data comes in, UI reacts automatically, and I can handle special cases, like what I say before, disabled accounts or missing profiles, like very explicitly.
Yeah,
So for like a product like Compass, which has to be both trustworthy and adaptable, that combination of clarity, speed, and low friction is exactly what I needed. And it just worked perfect. So there you go.
awesome, awesome. Man, thank you so much for being with me today, for being a part of our audience and letting our listeners hear what's going on at Banyan. And man, if you could talk to developers, right? And I know I'm asking you this because you're a mentor for Persevere, right? But if you could say anything to junior developers who are just starting their journey, who are thinking about building great infrastructures like Compass, what advice would you give them?
Do it. Right? Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it.
Uh,
For one, don't be intimidated by AI and all you hear the hype of what it's capable of doing. At the end of the day, the human is the most important aspect in any development process out
For
there.
sure, for sure.
Learn,
Yeah,
learn, and just have confidence in your abilities, as broad or as small as they might be right now, but always be willing to learn. Don't ever have an imposter syndrome that a lot of people tend to have when they first get into this field. It's a very fake thing in my mind because I think everybody has the skill set. It's just, have they found it yet? Right?
yeah,
And man, there's so many programs that have yet to be designed. There's so many processes that have yet to be discovered. You
yeah,
might be the next one to make that, right? You might be the next person to create that thing that's been missing for the last 30 years.
sure.
So don't throw a towel in and just push through it.
I love that. I love that. Andrew, if people wanted to reach out to you, man, if they wanted your advice, or how could they reach you? How could they contact you and ask you questions from a developer standpoint?
I mean, go to my website,
So what's your website, man?
thebeardednerd.
All right, sweet.
Yeah.
Beardednerd.dev, and we'll put that into the description of our interview today. And if you're listening and you're interested in Compass and learning more about it, you can visit us at banyanlabs.io and visit our products page, and Compass is listed there, and just see all of the amazing things about it. Andrew, man, thanks so much for being with me today. Thank you for being a part of this. And man, I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.